You've been waiting for the verdict, the moment someone looks at you and says, "Case closed, you're free." But that's not how this ends. That's never how this ends. Look at where you are right now, not where you were, not where you're going. Here, the wreckage is behind you. The rebuilding is real. The mornings are quieter, and somewhere in that quiet, the advocate of addiction is still breathing. Not screaming, breathing. Here is the thing nobody tells you about the other side of destruction. The silence doesn't mean he's gone. The silence means he's waiting to see what you do when nobody's watching. When the crisis is over, when the story no longer needs a hero, when the room is empty and there's nothing left to prove. That's his moment. Not your worst day, your ordinary one. You used to fight him. You mapped his patterns. You named his tactics. You learned the architecture of the trap. And something shifted. Not because you won, because you stopped needing to. Here is what changes. Not the advocate. You. The man who walked into this series was watching himself like a prisoner watches the door. Every thought, every craving, every quiet moment of weakness, cataloged, analyzed, feared. That man was exhausted, and exhaustion is exactly what the advocate of addiction was counting on. But something has happened in the space between chapter 1 and now. You started watching differently, not with fear, with familiarity. The way you recognize a pattern in weather, the way you read a room before anyone has spoken. He's still there. You know he's still there. And that knowledge, not the victory, not the cure, that is the thing that changes everything. There's a word for this, not recovery, not healing, not freedom. Literacy. You have learned to read the language of your own destruction. And a man who can read the trap is no longer living inside it. He's living beside it, eyes open. This is not the happy ending. There is no happy ending. There is only the next morning, and the morning after that, and the quiet, ongoing choice to keep reading what the advocate is writing, not to erase him, to understand him, because understanding is the only thing he was never built to survive. The courtroom is still there. The advocate of addiction is still sitting across from you. But look at the room again. You chose to be here, not because you had to, because you wanted to understand what you were up against. That's not a small thing. That's the only thing. 10 chapters. One question left. Not, how do I stop him? What do I do now that I know? Sit with it. Don't rush the answer. The advocate never does. Subscribe to the internal advocate. The next chapter begins in the silence you've just learned to read.